Anyways, ladies and gentlemen, I have here with me an amazing person. So just permit me to call you by your first name, but I'm going to do all the
God,
introductions.
God.
I have here with me the amazing the like I was listening to the episode on broke is it broke no common sense for relationships last week,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
I was like, God, what is going on here? How would one person have this much wisdom, this much sense?
It's common
uh,
sense. You know,
I tell you, and I mean, like I was saying, he has been with us. He has been on this episode like twice now. Before now, he has been on this episode. Kingsley Bature is a pastor. He just recently was like became a
practitioner,
licensed
family life practitioner,
practitioner,
therapist.
family
Yeah,
life practitioner. And I mean, he wears many hats, as he will always say. At some point in this conversation, he's going to be wearing the pastoral hat. At some point in this conversation, he's going to be wearing the daddy hat. At some point in this conversation, he's going to be wearing the counselor hat. At some point, he's going to be wearing the businessman's hat, and so on. Like, he is versatile. Like, I don't know if there's any if your type come in pairs. Like, you're the only ladies and gentlemen, Kingsley Bature.
yeah. Good,
Thank you so
good
much,
evening,
sir, for
everyone.
joining us.
Yeah, good
Yes,
evening.
sir.
Yeah,
Thank you
good
so
evening,
much.
everyone. I'm glad to be here. Like I always say, I always count it a privilege and opportunity wherever I have to speak or to teach or to present or even to just counsel. I never take it for granted whether I'm speaking to tens or thousands. It makes no difference. It's just that
Mm,
wherever it is, I always take it as a privilege and opportunity to share. And perhaps in the midst of sharing, um, um, lose the bounds, break chains, open eyes, set at liberty, and um, as my common slogan is, mend broken walls so that people's lives are a better version of themselves.
mm. Awesome. Awesome. Thank you so much again, sir, for coming. And I believe we're going to be getting value from our conversation this evening, or whatever time you're going to be coming across this recording. And I also want to welcome everyone who will be listening to LifePod with C. This is a podcast that basically draws inspiration from daily experiences, things you experience on a daily basis. In the month of May, the month we dedicate to children, basically is the month where we celebrate children in Nigeria. I don't know about other parts of the world. We decided to consider a particular topic as it concerns children, and also owing to some prevalent activities, some prevalent things that we have seen going on in the society, we just thought that it would be wise for us to consider this topic. Today, we're going to be talking about dealing with children, understanding their nature, upbringing, and general best practices when it comes to dealing with children generally. And so that's what we're going to be talking about today. That's what we're going to be considering or handling in our conversation today. But before we jump into what we're, because I actually have a few talking points noted down here, and I want to especially thank a few of my friends who took out time to respond to a request. I mean, I had to reach out to some people, some of them professionals. I even had to reach out to my mom because my mom my mom has raised six solid children. So yes, she has raised six solid children.
Wow,
And so
wow.
yeah, I
She's
believe that
that's legend status.
legend status, I'm
Legend
telling you.
legend status.
And so I want to especially thank you guys. I want to thank Favor. Favor is a professional. She's a teacher, actually. So I want to thank her. She made out time to respond. I want to also thank my friend Richard. Richard Ezala he had to even do a full study in the short time I reached out to him, and he gave me some talking points as well. So everything I'm going to be discussing here is not from top of my head. It's a combination of ideas. So I want to thank everybody. But before we jump in, I would like for you to tell us, sir, when you when generally, if you are to address issues concerning children, what's the first thing that will come out of your mouth if you were to talk to people that you will say, this is my best description of the nature of children?
That's an interesting question. And the question, I would say, the question in itself is a complexity. So, because in the question you have children, in the question you have their nature, and in the question you also have my perspective of their nature.
Yes.
And I have raised 3 children. My youngest
Wow.
is 11, going to be 12.
Wow.
My oldest is 16, so it's 16, 14, 12. Yeah.
12.
So if you ask me what's the first thing that comes to my mind, the word I can use is that word, complexity.
Wow.
Complexity, because children reveal to you a perspective of humanity that causes you to appreciate our diversity as a world. Like I said, I've raised 3 children, and fortunately or unfortunately for me, none of them is the same.
That's interesting. that's something right there.
So if you look at it like that, you will say, if they were all the same, I would say, okay, what I apply for number 1, I will just do what, copy,
duplicate,
and paste for all of
everybody,
them, and it will work. But that complexity is what I said. It reveals to us how different we are as human beings. So for children, first of all, I would think of them as human beings. Think of them as human beings. First of all, think of them as human beings. This one is a human being. So when you look at them as human beings, then you will now come to appreciate the immense responsibility that is conferred on you as a person who is meant to shepherd or guide or tutor or train or raise another human being. I don't make light of that, because some of us have not even raised ourselves properly.
Oh man. we can spend all day here. We can spend all day here.
Some of us have not raised ourselves well. So if we have not raised ourselves well, what justifies us to raise another human being?
Another human being.
So that's a complexity right there.
True.
Some people, you would say, so it's a lot put. That's why I say there's a lot that you put into that one question. So I'm showing you my perspective. I'm telling you about their nature.
Yes.
Do you understand?
Yes.
So it just tells me that there's a lot inside here, and I guess maybe in the process of our conversation, we'll be able to distill the different aspects of it. But if I were to stay on that part of as a parent, raising ourselves properly before we even question what we are raising as children, it's very critical. And I made an example of something I encountered. I think I spoke about it on our last show when we were saying when we were talking about why God would not why God will not save your marriage. It was our last week's episode. Interestingly, this podcast is coming now. The episode for Common Sense Relationship for this Saturday is God will not train your children.
Your children. I was even going to mention that.
And something that happened there is the example I'm going to, maybe I'll use that to kickstart the different conversations we have. But staying on we as parents raising ourselves properly. I would say something before. I would say something and come back to say this. One of the things that I have noticed, or I can say about my children, is that my raising my children taught me a bit more about God. Raising my children
Tell
taught
us
me a
about that.
bit more, taught me a bit more about God. Because in raising them, I began to appreciate the enormity of responsibility that God carries on our behalf. And when I say they taught me about God, is some of the things we read in the Bible as Christians or as believers. Some of the things we read in the Bible, we archive them in head knowledge. We can quote them. We can quote them appropriately. We can use them for argument. But some of those things, for me, in calling God Father, some of those things came to life when I was raising my children. And I'll give you examples. But I will give you the example when I say this thing I want to say now. Something happened in my children's school when I went for visiting day. I traveled to visit them. And in my children's school, the principal, who is a reverend father, came and said that in the last visiting day before this one, the visiting days, the school is very principled, yeah. Visiting day starts at 9 and ends at 5 p.m. Now, at 5 p.m., every parent is expected to leave, and the children come back, and they will have roll call at I think 5:15 or 5:20. But in the last visiting day, the principal said that some parents made their children miss the visiting day. They missed the roll call, and they got punished. And when they were asked why they missed the roll call, their parents told them not to mind the school. So their parents told them to disregard what the school has said, the principles and the policies that the school has put down, and spend the time with the children at the detriment of the children. So the principal said something, and I quote, he said, "I can't understand how a parent would let his child or his children get into trouble because of themselves." Because of something, they wanted to spend more time with the children, so the children should get in trouble. So disregard the school. That's so. When I said that, I said someone said something, and I agree completely. He said that we have spoiled parents raising entitled children.
Whoa!
Spoiled parents raising entitled children.
Because real quick, what is most common these days is saying the children are spoiled, the children are spoiled. So it's actually the parents who are spoiled, right?
So that brings me back to one of the very first things I said, which is the fact
Raising
that
yourself.
if we didn't raise ourselves properly, what are we going to raise?
True.
What are we going to raise? So if we have spoiled parents, they're going to raise entitled children. Absolutely. And then we're going to see all of the things that we're seeing, and then we're saying, this one's doing raising more. Even see the society is a, if I were to look for a word, I would say it's a confabulation of a lot of diversities, varieties. There's so much variety in society, and principles and values are being degraded.
True.
So if you leave the child like that, it will become something that you don't even know what it is, because society itself throws so many things at children, and children at a very young age, one of the key things they are looking for is identity.
True.
And if you don't tell them what they should be or can be, or give them values that help them determine what they should be, they're just going to become anything. And then we are still going to come back and say, these ones are spoiled children. So if I circle back to what I was saying, which is the fact that these parents need to be raised properly, right? we need to look at ourselves. And in
Yes,
that
sir.
place where I was saying what these children taught me, how they taught me to appreciate the place of God. I can give
Yes.
so many examples, but I'll give one simple one. There was one that happened to my son, my first son, when he was little, and something happened, and I scolded him. I
Mm.
scolded him. I was upset with him, and I said, "No, you shouldn't have done this. This is unbecoming of you. This is not what you want." I scolded him, and when I scolded him, I went to my room and shut the door because I was upset. After some time, I heard some things at my door, and then I went to the door and I opened the door, and my son was sitting down. He just lay down in front of my door, and he was waiting for me to come out.
Wow.
When I saw him at that point, I picked him up, and it was like the Holy Spirit saying to me, "That's how, that's why children, that's why Jesus loved children. That's why he said we
Mm.
should always
Yes.
we should
Be
always
like children.
be like children." Some of us we are the adults of God. We are the adults of God. So by the time God does something, we say, how can God do that to me? And then we
Mm-hmm.
go verse. Then
Yes.
waka come out and say what happened? And I give God 7 days. I give him
Yes.
7 days. So
Better
one of
show
the
up.
things better show up. One of the things I always like to say is God is not our mate. Let's
At
not get
all.
it twisted. God is not our
Mm-hmm.
mate, but he's
Mm-hmm.
a father. And if he
Yes.
speaks to you and he says, "Which of my children, if I don't chastise you as my children, you're a bastard." That's what the
True.
scripture says. But
True.
if you are my children, I will chastise you. But when I chastised my son that day and he came back to the door, the Holy Spirit said, that's the
Wow.
way of a son. Because
Wow.
when the father chastises him, he goes back to say, "Hey,
Mhm.
I missed it. Maybe it's something I did wrong." So that one taught me, say, no matter how me and God they provoke, no matter how God
Mhm.
they vex me, if he vex me finish,
You always.
if I provoke finish, I'll go back and say, "Bro, say all those things I dey talk. Now just vex, I dey vex. I'm a
Mm-hmm.
human being. I'm entitled to
Mm-hmm.
vex, and you are the one that made me like this. If you made me as an angel, I cannot
We
vex because
won't have
angel,
been here.
angel, this have been here. Yeah, but you're the one that made me as human being. So let's just agree to disagree. God, I beg."
Anyway, let me start dishing out the question things I've written here before you jump and leave me. But that was very that was deep. I'm going to ask this. I think I've just put this into one question. I have two questions here, but I'll put them into one. What are the strategies for teaching social skills and empathy in children, and what are the effective ways to set boundaries and encourage respect in children? So the first question is, what are the best strategies for teaching social skills? Because one of the challenges we have today, I don't know, so there's nothing wrong with social media anyways, but with the advent of social media and technology, you find out that you are with people, or you are chatting with people, or you're talking with people who are not even around you. So how do we teach social skills to our children, and empathy as well? Because we also remember this thing that happened in one of these top schools in Abuja, where a group of friends, they were hitting, or they were bullying another girl. So that's just an example. But how can we teach empathy in children, and social skills as well? And then the second part of the question is effective ways to set boundaries and encourage respect in children.
Okay, so with the advent of social media and a lot of and all of these things, social media has come to stay. It's not going
Exactly.
anywhere.
Exactly.
You understand me? It's
Mm-hmm.
it's come to stay. It's not going anywhere. Uh, Technology has come to stay.
Has come to stay.
It's not going anywhere. So the
Mm.
question is, we have two options. we can decide to shield the children from these things, and then they come to a place. We can decide to shield them from these things, or we can decide to say these things are here, but we are going to teach them how to survive and how to thrive. So we can either use we can either use a shield, or we can use we can either use a shield, or we can use a medium. So we can decide, okay, I don't want my children getting into social media. I don't want this. I shield them. I block them out. No devices. Okay. No this. No that. No that. We can do that. The danger, however, is that when they come to a point where, because the children are with you for a season of your life, and that's some kind of mistake that we as parents make. Sometimes we spend the best part of their lives trying to convince ourselves that we are trying to make things better for them. So we are trying to make money. We are trying to hustle to ensure that they have the better life, right? But we are spending the best part of their life being away, trying to make their life better. It looks like an irony. It looks like a do you understand? But at certain seasons of their life, if we understand that children are going to be with us for a certain season of their life, and after that season, they're gone. It now means that when we come to that understanding, we must now become very deliberate about what we do with them in the season of their life where they are with us. So that's number one. We must be deliberate about what we do with them when they are with us. When they begin to leave, in fact, and when they begin to leave, to some people, for example, for me, all my children, we decided very early on that all my kids are going to go to boarding house. And we were very deliberate about the kind of boarding house that we wanted them to go to. We had like 5 different principles or values, criteria rather, that we used in deciding what schools will they go to. Because we wanted those things to be like guidelines to do what? To carry them through. So that's part of the social skills that we are developing in them when we are not with them. When we are with them, in the seasons when we are with them, we did our best to do what? To try to show them, so that their children like routine, or let me say, children need routine. Sometimes they may not like it. They may say, "Oh, I like my freedom." Every child doesn't like boundaries. Every child doesn't like boundaries, but they need them. They need them. They don't like it, but they need them. It is when they grow that they begin to come back and tell you, "Oh, it was a good thing that you did. It was a good thing that you did." But at the time where you are setting them and they don't like it, so they will flaunt it. They will look for. I have a particular son that once you put a boundary, he will find a way to play everywhere around the edges of that boundary to test the limit of your patience.
Every day I'll be looking at you like this.
To see, what are you going to do? Are you going to do? So part of setting boundaries. Part of setting boundaries is that you have to be consistent. You can't say this is the boundary, and then they cross the boundary and nothing happens. If there's a boundary, you must put a border around it, and if that border is crossed, there must be repercussions. Just like a boundary in a country, if you cross customs without the right papers, there are repercussions. Now you must set those things and ensure that the children understand what the repercussions are. And when they cross the boundaries, implement the repercussions. And you have to implement it the same way for everyone that is in your household. The children cannot come and say, "You implemented it like this for me, but see how you now implemented it for this person. That person is your favorite." In our house, we have no favorites. All of them know, as in there's no There's no favorite, but there's respect. Okay,
Yes,
so
yes,
first born,
yes.
second born, third child, there's respect. So some things that you will say, oh, this one is favorite. I say, no, it's not favorite.
Mm-hmm.
It's respect. If you are at that position, I will ensure that 2 and 3 also give you the same respect.
Same.
So the
Yes.
boundaries, you must be deliberate, number 1. Number 2, you must be consistent. Number 3, you must, in being consistent, you must also look for 2 things. Like I said, children are very different, right? Like I said, children are very different. So some children, I will use 2 words. There are 2 words I would use. One is compliance.
Okay.
One is commitment. So
Okay.
children respond to the boundaries we enforce 2 ways: by compliance or by commitment. Whatever children like, they are committed to. If they like the thing, they'll be committed to doing it. You may not even need to motivate them if they like it.
Okay.
They will just put themselves in it. So in setting boundaries, you can either get their commitment or you demand their compliance. If they are not committed to it, it's okay to settle for compliance. Meaning, if we have said you will do it, whether you like it or not, you will do it because we have said you do. And then you must tie, that's the fourth thing, you must tie a consequence to whenever there is a, if they cross the boundary, there must be a consequence that all of us understand.
Yes.
That this is the consequence. So whether you call child 1, 2, child N, they must understand that for this boundary, this is the consequence. And the reason this person is getting this particular consequence is because he crossed this boundary. In fact, another child will be telling the other child, you are crossing this boundary. I will go and tell that because, do you understand? Now, at different stages, we must continue to force it there. For example, part of this boundary setting, it begins from the small things, from the little things, from being able to tell them, my room is my room. If you are coming to my room, you have to knock on my door. Knock the door. So we're going from boundaries into social skills. If you're coming to my room, you have to knock the door. For my first child, he caught on very quickly. The second one sort of copied the first one, right? The third one, I think I must have said it 170 times before he eventually caught it.
You were counting.
I didn't count, but I lost count. So it must have been up to 170 or more. He will just come, enter the door. No. Okay. So when he does that, I will say, go. So he comes in, Daddy, he wants to say, I say, no, I will not listen to you. Go back.
Go back.
So he will go back, close the door, knock, and then come back. I think we've done that. That's why I say I lost count. But eventually, he's got it. He knows if he comes, he will stay at the door and knock. So when he got to the knocking, the next step was that you have to wait for an answer. Before you come. So because when he goes there, he just he has opened the door. After all, I've knocked. So I will now say, okay, level 2. After you knock, you wait for an answer. If you don't get an answer, don't come in. And we did that over and over again. So that's reinforcement, right? So, but that I said that goes into building, that goes into social skills. And what are we doing? We are trying to say you have to respect people's space.
People's spaces, yes.
You have to respect people's spaces. For example, one of the things I told my children, just because somebody is holding a phone doesn't mean you have to look into it. You don't just come and then people are looking and then you come and look. You can see something that you can't unsee. So
absolutely,
you only come to look if somebody invites you. If they don't invite you, stay. So we had that's part of that respecting people's space, right? Those are those social skills you can do when you spend time with them. That's why I say sometimes parents spend a lot of their time outside, but the children, the time you have them with you, make deliberate efforts to spend time with them. And don't get me wrong, you will have to make trade-offs in order for that to happen. I remember a season in my life where I had the opportunity to take on a role that would bring me a lot of influence and a lot of visibility. I would be, the role would bring me a lot of visibility, a lot of influence. I would be, I'll be around. I'll be everywhere.
Yes,
I'll be
yes.
going to places. But in that season in my life, I recognized that my children were at a critical position, a critical point of their life where I am at the verge of losing them if I am not present.
Wow.
Because my
Wow.
wife works 9 to 5. I run my own businesses, but that role is also going to place more demand on me. So I told her, you continue your 9 to 5. I will step back.
Wow.
Oh, and I did step back in order to spend that season with them. But that season is coming to an end, and we are fine with each other. We chat, we talk with it. But what are we doing? They watch you how you interact. That's the third way you build social skills. How do you deal with your wife and the people around you? Children watch you. Children watch. They watch you. They may not say anything, but they watch. Sometimes they watch and even make the wrong assumptions. It is your interactions with them that correct those assumptions.
Yes. Yes.
Those assumptions. I'll give you an example. My daughter at one point says that she thinks that my first son is the favorite child. And this is after years of watching us interact with each other. And she said, she thinks my first son is the favorite child. I asked her why. She says, because it seems like whatever he asks for, he usually gets. I said, give me examples. And she put a number of examples. But with each example, I was able to prove to her, oh, this one that he asked for, he got it because in our house, we also put certain principles. In our house, there's a limit to what you can get as a birthday gift or a present or a Christmas present. There's a limit.
Okay.
If you need what can get you something beyond that limit is performance.
Okay.
If we give a target and you meet a target, you can expand the limit of the kind of gifts that you want. So that's just an example. So by the time a target was set for him and he said, oh, if this is the target, I'm going to meet it because I want this thing.
Yes.
He met the target and he got it. So his sister said, but why did he get it? The one I wanted is not even as expensive as that target that he got. But I didn't get it. I said, because it's performance. If you want it, you perform. There's no half measures. She brought another one and I explained. She brought the third one and I explained. And she said, okay, I get it.
It made sense.
Now, but if we did not have those engagements, which is the fourth thing I've said, you have to engage. If you do not have those engagements, some parents are even afraid to talk to their children.
Yes.
And I'm not even painting it well. They would rather call me and tell me, can you talk to my children? They don't listen to what I say. How did you get there? Where the child doesn't listen to what the parent says. How did we get there? That's why I said you can make the children listen to you either by commitment. Commitment means you're giving them what they like, and they're doing it because they like it, or you settle for compliance. Compliance is the second one. Compliance means that they don't even like it, but because of you and who you are in the home,
in their lives,
they will do it. They will do it. They will do it. They may even complain about it, but they will do it. And in doing it, that's where they develop the skills. In doing. That's why I said children need routine. They just need to do. Now, empathy in a final, I'll just touch on it before you go to your next question. Empathy, if you looking at empathy is something that it takes time to build and to develop in children. That's the truth.
Yes.
But they are going to learn these things from the experiences that they have with you. The experiences that they have with you is how they learn empathy.
Empathy.
It's like that case of putting yourself in someone else's shoes,
Shoes.
right? So and sometimes there was an interesting thing I learned about empathy, and differentiating it from sympathy, because sympathy is like, oh, I feel sorry for you, and all of that. But because I feel sorry for you, I don't want to do anything to hurt you, right? I feel sorry for
Okay.
you. I don't want to do anything to hurt you. But empathy, on the other hand, is I feel sorry for you, but I don't want you to continue to hurt.
Okay. Okay.
I don't know if you notice the difference.
Yes.
Sympathy is I feel sorry for you. I don't want anything to hurt you.
Hurt you.
Empathy is I feel sorry for you, but I don't want you to continue
To hurt.
to hurt. And if I don't want you to continue to hurt, it means that I share your feelings, but I also understand what needs to be done.
Okay. If you don't do this, then it's not you. It's only Pastor K. It's only one Pastor K. There's only one Pastor K.
So because I understand what you are going through, and I also understand what you need at the point that you're going through, I don't want you to continue to hurt. So my actions will be governed by that understanding.
Yes.
Meanwhile, sympathy, on the other hand, my actions are governed by just the feeling that I don't want to. So I'll give you an example. My child, one of my sons, fell down and hit a leg, right? And the place was swollen. I think he was playing ball or so, and the place was swollen. And if you try to touch the leg, he's going to scream.
Yes.
And he, in fact, is going to even hold your hand. So as a parent, I have a lot of sympathy for him. Sympathy because, like, oh, I've played ball too. So I understand what he's going through. But at the point, so if I were his friend, what I'll be feeling for him is sympathy. Hey, yeah, bro, sorry. Sorry. No, nobody should touch the leg. Don't touch the leg because it's going to cause him pain. But I have played ball before, and I know that when you hit leg like that, when it swells, there's something that needs to be done to the leg in order for it not to become an infection. And when it escalates, you might end up losing the leg.
Yes.
And my not touching the leg is not helping you.
True.
So empathy means because I understand what you are going through, I can tell you, okay, I'm sorry that you hit your leg, but what you need right now is what? Is that I need to massage this thing with aboniki or shea butter or magic spray, something. I need to do something to this leg in order for you to be able to walk well in the next 2 days. Otherwise, you may lose your leg for more than 2 days.
Yes.
At that point, it's empathy.
Empathy.
So children need to experience it in order to express it.
Yes.
That's how to teach empathy.
It
needs to be that and that's something I say for parents. We must use every opportunity as a teaching moment.
Yes.
In fact, right now, one of the jokes that my children, they do is by the time they just come up and say something, and when they say something, by the time I said, that's something that they said, and then the next thing you hear somebody will say, is it in the book of Ephesians chapter 5? Yeah. So I said no, I didn't say that. So So I have had to adapt. So I don't quote it as people. I will say, well, I read in one book that there's somebody will add it must be Colossians 1:24. So they play those jokes, with me, because I just look for every opportunity as a teaching moment. As a teaching moment. Now, there are times when because if you understand what the child is going through, you know that at this time, it's the teaching that is required there is not retribution, it's not penal,
Okay.
it's not penalty. The
Yes.
teaching sometimes that because you understand what they're going through, sometimes you just sit and listen. There was an instance where my daughter was telling me something. It was a moment, and I needed to extract something from her, just conversation, and she had done as if all these things that teenagers pull that say she's not going to. I said okay, but at that time I understood I'm not going to let this pass, but all I'm going to do is listen. So I stayed on and I listened to her. As she was talking, in my spirit, if you could see my spirit, it's like a backhand was coming somewhere. Do you understand? It was like there was a backhand that was loading. As when you play computer game, there's a kind of move you want to do that you are charging the hand. The hand is charging. Before by the time you charge, you now release it. So in my spirit, if you could see the hand was charging. But in the physical, I was just calm. That's why I said that it is critical that in learning, in raising the children, we also are going through a schooling of our own as parents. We are being schooled in order to school children. And I just sat calmly. By the time she finished talking, I was like, okay, now I hear you. Then I told her, give me a minute in order to compose a response. Because if I gave her the response that was in my spirit, it's a backhand, as in a very solid one,
And you would have
But
lost
by
that
the time,
moment.
no, I would have lost that moment. But the moment I composed my response and I gave it to her, she was in tears. She was
And
in
you didn't even
tears.
have to touch her.
I didn't touch her. Now, so that's why I said for me too, it's like that's why I said it's really a complexity because we are raising them and we are learning how to raise them.
True.
And because each of them is different, is not the principle must be the same, but the methodology must vary according to the personalities.
True.
That's it.
True. That's in fact in the course of the things you've said, you've been able to treat some of the points, some of the talking points I have here. So I'm not really going to go into that into some of the questions here. But what I'm going to do is I have just a few more questions because I have eliminated some. So I have just a few more and then we'll call it wraps. So the next question I want to ask is also a twofold question. How can a parent develop self-esteem and confidence in a child? And this is very important, and I would love for us to really dwell on this because it is something that is really missing in most adults today, and that's because in their formative years or as children, they were not trained to be to have a healthy self-esteem or to be confident. Even in fact, confidence is something that many people as adults lack, and that's because of where they are coming from. If you see a child that is really confident, you can tell in the way he carries himself, you can tell in the way he talks, in the way he relates with people, in his belief and all of that. And so how can one as a parent develop a healthy self-esteem in a child, self-esteem and confidence in a child? And then secondly, what is the difference then between self-awareness and arrogance, so that you don't raise an arrogant child? What then will you say is the difference between self-awareness or a healthy self-esteem and arrogance?
Mm.
Yes.
I'll put it this way. Self-awareness, I would say, and it's closely linked to self-esteem, is having
Yes.
a healthy opinion of yourself, your strength, your weaknesses, and an understanding of your personality. So for me, that's self-awareness. Now, the way you express this awareness of yourself is what we call self-esteem. That's the simplest way I would put it. So for example, I used to be a very shy person. I used to, why are you laughing? Every time I say something like this, people just laugh. And he had to believe. Yes. In my growing up years, I used to be very shy. I'm telling you the truth. I used to be very shy. In fact, there was once that my mom made a joke that if they lock me up in the room, if they lock me up with the room with a girl, you know how they will say, boys are promiscuous. If you leave boys with a girl, they will do all of this. My mom used to say that if they lock me up in a room with a girl and give us 2 chairs, that by the time they go in the morning and come back in the evening, everything I want to do, I will make sure I do it around that chair that I am. There's nothing that will make me even look at the girl or even ask whether there is a girl in the room. That's how I was that shy. I was very shy. And sometimes a lot of people speak of people that are shy as if they have low self-esteem. That's in my opinion, that's not always correct. It's not always correct, because in a person's esteem is how you portray something, how you portray self, right?
Yes.
Awareness is what you are as self.
Yes.
Right. Now, if you portray yourself lower than what you are or below what you are, that's what we call low self-esteem.
Low self-esteem.
If you portray yourself above what you are, that's what we see. You have high self-esteem, and that's where we begin to enter arrogance. Because arrogance is an exaggerated sense of self.
Makes sense.
It makes sense. It's exaggerated. Now, but somebody said, let me draw a parallel from a quote. Somebody said something. He says, a lion will not eat grass. That's not pride. It is what? Is what a lion is.
Yes.
Even though they now did one meme of after they said that, they now do one meme of one very distinct lean lion eating grass. I don't know where this social media guys go and get all these things. But my point with that quote is the fact that if a lion understands who it is, it has no business with grass. It's flesh all the way, because this is who I am. And it is not pride. I'm not going to eat grass, not because I don't, it's not because I'm underrating grass. It's because I don't eat grass. If I say so, being that I was very shy in my early years, it made me sort of look down on myself, and I was always looking for some form of approval. Do you understand? So that's why people put them closely related, because one can cause the other. But because the other is an expression, the other is what people see. Self-esteem is what people see. But self-awareness is what you know yourself to be.
Within you. Yes.
Within you. So if you want to teach children self-awareness, they first need to know what they are inherently. And the problem we have sometimes, and I even had this struggle with my children, because like I said, they are different. My son is very expressive. Because he's very expressive, my first son, because he's very
Yes.
expressive, he comes out as very confident. If you are asking a question, he can get up and pick up the mic and ask you a question. So he
Whoa.
comes out as very confident. He's very bold, right? He's very expressive. So you can say, oh, that one is the confident child.
Yes.
But guess what? It's just personality. That's another element that we don't factor in. So it's personality.
Yes.
And there are different personality types. In psychology, we say there are like 4 main personality types. There are others that are a mix of those 4 main types, but there are like 4 main personality types. Now, the fact that it's a personality type doesn't now mean that he cannot be arrogant or have low self-esteem. I don't know if you understand. So we need to be able to delineate them in order to identify them. Now, so in a child, my second child is very self-aware. She knows herself, but she's also very shy. So she will not put herself out there. But if you catch her in her element,
Yes.
in her element, you can't put her down. But if you gather a group of people, everybody in that place may say all the things. She may even have the thing that is going to solve all the problems, and she won't say anything.
Keep it to herself.
Because she's not interested. She's not listening. She just knows herself and she keeps it to herself. Now, how do we build it in children? First of all, we must bring them to a place of awareness. That's first level.
Yes.
Know who you are. What are your strengths? What are your weaknesses? For example, my son, we identified that he's good in sports. He's athletic. So it's just to find which sport will catch my interest. And so at one point it was football, but at that point he didn't really have the football academy or the field that they can play. Yes. But at another point it became athletics, just running. And then now it's basketball. So he's identified it.
Yes.
My daughter, however, all of us in the history of our family knows that she's not a sports person. So if you're asking her to do sports, you are wasting both your time, her time, and all of our times. So if we're coming for inter-house sports, we know we are not expecting to see her on the field. We can see her at the match past.
Yes.
Because she likes Shakara. So she will do the match pass for you very easy. Do you understand? But if you say you want to see her on the field winning medal, you are just setting yourself up. What am I saying? We must bring them first to the point of self-awareness. What are my strengths? What are my weaknesses? What are my idiosyncrasies? What are the things that I like to do that may not make sense to you?
Yes.
You have to let children find it. Now, if you are uncomfortable with something that they like or want to become, that's where conditioning comes in. You have to, especially if they are not teenagers yet, you can now condition them and say, this is how I want you to be. But when they get to a certain age, it cannot, the conditioning can no longer be legislated. Cannot be legislated. It becomes suggestive, and it becomes conditioning by influence. Remember, I said there are 2 ways, either by commitment or by compliance. So if I cannot condition you by commitment, that I cannot make you like what I know you need, then I will bring in compliance, which means that I know something that you like. If you don't comply, I will take away what you like. Do you understand? Because parents need to understand that they are children.
Yes.
And even by the time they get to 18, psychologists will tell you that their frontal is not fully developed yet, not until they get to 25. Do you understand? They're not. So even all this shouting, I'm a teenager, I know what is good for me, it's my life. If you need to, oh, rubbish. They're children. And we must do our part in parenting them. So when you understand that they have passed a certain level, you now say, okay, in this new level, there's a different way. There was a time when the solution to the correction mechanism was Koboko, Bulala. I will read. The only difference which I learned and I adjusted was that I made up my mind that I will never spank them when I'm angry. I won't do it at the point when I'm angry. If I'm going to give you a spanking, I will prepare your mind. I will give you time. If you did the thing, yes, you will know that the spanking is coming. And yes, so by the time assuredly, I assure you, it is coming. It's coming. So, but it will be at the point where you committed, so that I also have had time to ponder on both the offense and the discipline. Are they commensurate? There was someone that wrote a book, I think it's Leo Tolstoy. Is it Crime and Punishment? I think was it the one? Yeah, Crime and Punishment. You have to ensure that whatever the crime or whatever the offense, it is commensurate with the punishment. But when you discipline children in anger, most times you are not in control. But when you discipline them and they know that at this point I'm getting disciplined, he's not angry, he's not shouting, he's not distant. It is that I have taken time to, and we do that, all of them. There's something we used to do that we do. We call them, whenever they are back from school, we sit down and we just spend time just talking from sense to nonsense, different things. We do that. We have that one. We used to call it word or something. But we just do it. It's a ritual that we do. We have it every evening when they come back. Then, yes. When we do all of those, if you have your own discipline coming from the morning, you already know that it's going to meet you in the evening. So by the evening, that's when you will know what it is, because we have had time to discuss and decide. So if you want to plead your case by the evening, by that evening, you will now plead your case, and then the judgment will be passed. Now, there's something else that helps in building self-confidence, is you have to let children express. And we do something in our house we call open house. Open house is the time when once a week, when we come together, everybody is permitted to say what they don't like about somebody, and the person they are saying it against cannot respond.
Wow.
So they can tell me that is something I don't. In fact, one of the time they told me something I don't like is the fact that you will maybe I messed up. Yes, I messed up. But you will repeat this messed up that I messed up. As in, you are trying to correct me, but you have said it, and I have heard. But you will say it like 3 or 4 times. Do you understand? And it is just like, but I have heard now. I'm sorry. I will not be the. So at that point, I want to say no. The reason I am saying it is that so I will not do it again. But there's a rule, so I can't say anything. So I just have to keep quiet.
Irrespective of the fact that you are the head, irrespective of the fact that you are the head of the home, yes. So I have to keep quiet. So because that's why it's called open house. You have to let them do what? Express. What it does is that it builds rapport between every member of the family. You know that when we have open house, I can say what I want to say, and you can't do me anything. But of course, if those things are itemized, we now find another forum, which is those times we get together in the evening, where we can now address the things about it. So for me, I had another forum where I asked them that, okay, what's the best way that you guys think I can reinforce this thing without saying it 15 times to your hearing? Do you understand? And they give suggestions, and then we now agree, okay, this is the way. So that means if I start repeating it, you will just hear somebody say you are doing it, and that is, and that. So if all of us are sitting down there, I'm the only one that will understand. It's just us that will understand what they mean. And then I will just switch.
I'll say, okay, you get it now, and then I'll move. Do you understand? So that's
Yeah.
part of building confidence, self-esteem, self-awareness, and then arrogance.
We see these days there are a lot of people who they can't even express themselves. They can't even clearly state out what issues are. There are some people who are just dying in silence because they feel, if I talk to this person is my this person is older than me now. Timidity is not respect. You can actually express yourself to someone and still be respectful. That's why we're talking about the whole difference between self-awareness or confidence and arrogance. What differentiates them? So that's why we're having these conversations today.
Sorry, let me add one thing. Let me add one thing. And this is on the flip side from being timid. The flip side is that we have a generation too of children that can be very assertive.
Yes.
And I also like to say that assertiveness does not mean disrespect.
Yes.
Just the same way timidity does not mean respect. Assertiveness does not mean that. So this is coming from like I told you, they're all different. My youngest son is very assertive. He can talk to anybody. And yes, and most times he's questioning the things that you are saying. So that if you yourself do not have a basis or a foundation for why you do what you do, you might be exposed. And adults don't like that.
Absolutely.
Adults don't like that. So I will get calls from his teachers, and they will say something. I'll just listen. When I finish, I'll say, okay, thank you. I will deal with it. So we began to teach him to say there's something called being assertive with respect. And as you grow, you need to know that there are certain things that there are times to speak up and there are times to shut up.
Okay.
I told him that's part of maturity. So we call it susu. Speak up or shut up. So yes. So you find that so before you answer, he has to think first to say, is this a speak up moment or is this a shut up moment? Because I've said I told him if you're abroad, overseas, what you are doing, there's nothing wrong with it.
Nothing wrong with
it. In our culture, however, when you expose an adult, he feels that you don't have respect. So if an adult is talking and you feel like what you are going to say will expose them, just keep quiet and let it pass. When you come and meet me, tell me what you wanted to say. Then I will tell you how to respond next time. So he would come back and say, this teacher was saying this thing. I wanted to tell him like this and like this, but I thought this one may get me into trouble again. So I kept quiet. But was I wrong or was I right? Or could I have told him this? And I'll tell him, okay, adjust this, adjust it. So that's part of self-awareness and awareness. The final thing is we have to let children make mistakes.
Yes.
That's something that we as parents always try to do. We try to shield them so much, cover them so much. I don't want them to make the mistakes that I did. That's valid. But there are certain mistakes that they can make that you know that the consequence of those mistakes can be corrected.
Yes.
You have to let them make their own mistakes. You have to guide them. They can fall, but if they fall, you pick them up again. Not in the kind of instances where if they fall, it's unredeemable. No, those ones you have to shield them from it. But you have to. It's almost like guided coaching, right? Guided coaching. You are coaching them, but you are not holding them on the hand to coach them. You are guiding them with
watching them from a distance.
Yes, you are watching them from a distance, and you let them go. So how will you sort this out? How do you think you should do this? They will tell you, I don't know. No, but think of a way. Try. Oh, this is it. Okay. You have to let them.
Yeah, and I mean that's even going to help. That launches me into what I want to say now. Encouraging children building an environment that encourages that nurtures that curiosity in them, because children, when we talked about nature, one of their major natures is how curious they can get. Curiosity, they are asking a lot of questions at that particular age. That is not the time to exactly shut them up. And even though, like you said, in your case, the susu analogy, out there you are doing all of that, but when you come back home, you always know that when you come back home, I'm going to trash this out. I know I'm going to ask daddy, and you know that daddy will always, there's never a day you say you want to talk with daddy or mommy and they say no, I'm too busy. They will always have your time. So creating that environment that is safe for them to express themselves, to be curious, to be adventurous, because that is their nature at the time. And then another thing, best practices for dealing with children. One of the things I wrote down here is effective communication. Maybe as I'm talking, if you feel like adding some more things, you can go ahead. So one of the things I have here is effective communication. When you started, you talked about clearly stating what is on ground. Don't be vague about anything. And when you say something, you have to mean what you say. You have to stand by what you say. It also, in fact, communicating effectively is not just talking, it's also listening. That is when communication is complete, when you have listened, and it has to be a two-way thing.
Let me add something there.
Yes.
There was a research that I stumbled in one of my course, which says that I'm trying to remember the exact percentage. I'm trying to remember the exact percentage, but it's somewhere around 75% or so. 75% of communication is non-verbal.
Non-verbal.
So and in fact, I think I'm even trying. I think I'm even being conservative, because I think it was closer to 85. But let me just, because I can't remember exactly, but it was that high. It's non-verbal. It's not.
Wow.
It's not really about what you say. And I have seen this with my children a lot of time. A mistake that parents make is that when we speak and shout and say, "Oh," we assume that communication has taken place. That's where a lot of the problem is, because of that assumption that by the way I shouted or by the way they get it now. But a lot of times we need to confirm whether communication has taken place. So when I tell you what I say, you need to tell me back what I said. You'll be surprised that it's not what you thought you said. That's not what they heard.
You'll be surprised.
You'll be not be sure. A number of times. I gave you an example before. I told you the day my daughter told me that she thinks that my first son is the favored son. Which I was shocked, because I thought that in everything that we do, we always communicate this thing, no favoritism, no. We thought we are very clear, but she has some assumptions. So we have to trash out the assumptions in order to come to the point of clarity. And that's where communication happens. Do you understand? So when we as parents communicate, they are watching what you're doing, what you're saying, and the context for it. They will have their own assumptions. So you as a parent have to also be able to have feedback sessions where you extract what they heard, and then compare it with what you are trying to say.
And be sure.
So sometimes, and be sure that they're getting the same. So sometimes my wife, I say my wife acts like assistant Holy Spirit, because sometimes I'm saying something, the children are hearing something else, but my wife now comes and says, what she's saying is that this and this. That's when I now, because they will say, you are not hearing me. I say, I'm hearing you. I'm just preempting what you're going to say, and this is this. They say, no, that's not what I'm saying. So my wife now has to say, what she's saying is this. At the point where, so when my wife says that, and then I now ask them, is that what you mean? She says, yes. I say, and then if that's the case, we are fine now. Do you understand? So we
Mm.
have to have those back and forth that ensures that
Yes.
communication has
Vision
taken place. It
is
shouldn't be
complete.
assumed. It
Yes.
should be clear. It should be 360. It should be
Yes.
clear.
Okay,
You
so
know.
yeah, that's communication is very important. It is very important. The same way they say communication is important in relationship. This is a relationship, by the way. Relationship with you between
Mhm.
parents and children. So communication is key, and it has to be effective. It has to be effective. The next one is encouraging dependence and self-expression. You said that you mentioned that earlier when you talked about problem solving. Encourage that in children. Let's ask them questions. Don't just assume, don't just wake up and say you want to do father. There are some parents who, in the name of being perfect parents, they seize they steal that opportunity from children to be able to do things on their own. You say, oh, now I want to be the father of the year, I want to be the mother of the year, and you're just seizing, you're just
The best that whatever they want, we just give them.
you just give
There's one
exactly
there's one that is covered up with my generation. They say, I don't want my children to suffer the
suffer
way
what I
I
suffered.
suffered, so that
Mm.
I will provide everything they need so that they don't suffer. My guy, if is
I'm so
pain
glad you're
is a
talking
very
about this now.
yes, pain is a vital part of the growth process.
Development.
Pain,
Yes,
it's
I
a
agree.
vital part of the growth process.
Hmm.
Do you understand?
Yes.
When children are forming teeth, we call it teething pains, isn't
Mm.
it?
Yes.
It's part of growth.
It's part
And
of
those
growth.
pains are going to come not necessarily in the pain of the body, but the
Yes.
pain of responsibility, right? The pain
Hmm.
of conforming to certain values, because it's painful. It's painful
Yes.
that all your friends can play outside whenever they want, but in your own home, you only go
Mm.
outside at 6 o'clock.
Yes.
That's a pain. Do you understand?
Yes.
So, but
Hmm.
those are things that they are part of the growth process, because you are trying to condition or conform children to certain values or to certain
Yes.
customs or to certain
Hmm.
cultures. Do you
Hmm.
understand? So,
Yes.
but when we say we now want to shield them from pain, we raise children that have very low resilience quotient. Psychology
Yes.
calls it the adversity quotient,
Hmm.
because they don't know how to handle pain. The moment they
Yes.
feel a certain pain, they feel the whole world is going to fall apart.
It's going to,
So
yes.
these
Hmm.
days, there are different things, there are different levels for measuring intelligence. Back in the day, it just used to be IQ, but these
Yes.
days, when you do counseling psychology, these days there's IQ, intelligence quotient, there's
Mm.
EQ, emotional quotient, there's
Quotient.
there's there's social quotient, there's adversity quotient. So
Wow.
the ability of children to withstand adversity deals with how they are able to rationalize their pain and know that this pain might be here, but it is to achieve this result, and they will
Mm.
deal with it. So we have to
Yes.
let them. That's why I said you have to let them experience and express certain things, but it's guided coaching. You are letting
Coaching.
them learn it within conditioned environment, so that
Hmm.
when they come into the real environment, they can do what they can relate. That, oh, I've had something similar,
This kind
so
of
I can deal
experience
with this,
before.
even though it's a new experience, but it's
Hmm.
not here to kill me. It's part of the
Yes.
process. Trust the
Yes.
process.
Yes. I'm so, like, you've said it all. You've said it all. It is very important. And let me also say this, lastly: boundaries. Children, like you said, children may not like it, but they'll need it. No child, nobody basically really likes to be told what to do.
But
But we all need at some point, like when you were talking about parents who can't talk to their children. Omo, at this my age, my mother can still call me on phone and tell me, Chima, XYZ, and I would tell her, okay,
yeah,
ma,
it's true.
without thinking twice. Like,
Yeah, but the generation is changing.
it's changing.
It's
Like,
something else.
apparently, I'm the first son and I'm the only boy in my house. Five girls and only boy.
Mm,
Many people believe that I'm spoiled. Many people believe that, he's a king in the castle. Almost when
mm,
I go home, I have my chores cut out for me. every day. In fact, they love the fact that Chima is around, because when Chima is around, they know that the house is going to be clean. I love to
Mm,
do that. I love to
mm.
sweep everywhere. I love to clean everywhere. They just love it. And that's, I don't get it. I just don't get it. So, boundaries, let them know to what extent they, and then two things I want to say, and I would love for you to just throw some lights on it, and then we'll close out there. I have heard this severally, and it's a common thing where it's said that parents need to understand that they are not friends with their children at a particular age. There's a particular age you need to understand that you are not friends with your children, but you are a parent to them, until it gets to a particular age when you can now encourage that kind of relationship. I want you to talk to us about that. That's one. Then secondly, tell us about managing tantrums, meltdowns, and difficult behaviors in children. This is very important. So these are the two things that we will treat, and then we will close out on this conversation this night. So we're going to be talking about managing tantrums, meltdowns, and difficult behaviors in children.
Okay.
And then
Okay.
at what point, let's enforce this, or is it even correct? Should a parent be friends, be trying to be nice, and should a parent be trying to have the child like him or her, so that you don't do anything,
Mm.
bless you, you don't do anything
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
offend the child and all of that? So talk to us, sir.
All right. Let me start from the tantrums. Managing tantrums. Like
Yes.
in our house, we used to say that we don't. In this family, we are in no tantrum family. We don't tolerate tantrums. If
Mm.
if you are interested in tantrums, you are going to get the very short end of a long stick. You see where I put the short
Whoa.
end of a long stick. So we don't do tantrums, right?
Mm.
And this starts from very early on. There are
Early, yeah.
different instances where that's why I said when you put the boundaries, you have to enforce it every
Yes,
time.
every time.
If you put the boundaries, you have to enforce it every time. So I'll give you for each of my children, there are different instances, but I'll just give you two. There was one, my son was going to throw a tantrum because I think we were coming from school, and because he
Mm.
wanted sweet or something, you know how children just want something, and then he's
Yeah.
throwing a tantrum. He was going to scatter the
Mm.
car. I was driving. I stopped the car. I brought
Wow.
him down, and I say, if you don't behave yourself, I will leave you here and walk away.
And
Because
walk
we
away.
don't do tantrums. So if you are in my car, you cannot do tantrum.
Mm.
So, and if you are not going to stop the tantrum, then I will beat you outside. I will spank you. Then I will put you inside the car, because inside the car you cannot do tantrums.
Yes.
I was in
Outside
the
is
shop
beating,
with my
you collect.
yes. Do you understand? You collect.
Either way, it's no favor you at all.
No, either way, it doesn't favor you. So you have to behave. My daughter was in the shop, and you know how you carry children, you are going around in the shop, and then I want this one, I want this one. I say, no, you can't have it. I say, but I say, no, you can't. You start doing tantrum. There's something she used to do. She goes tantrum, and then she'll be squeezing her leg. You know how children will squeeze that, and then in the process, she can even injure herself. The law of the land was applied. It doesn't matter where. It doesn't matter where the law of the land is applied. Do you
Yes.
understand?
Yes.
So you know that if you need something, ask for it. If we
Communicate.
deny you, we will give you a reason why.
Why? Yes.
You don't need it, we can't afford it, it's not in the budget, or we will plan for it. But that we don't get it for you and you throw a tantrum, it is not acceptable. So tantrum lives outside our house.
So basically, if you need something, just clearly state what it is you need, and whatever you get, you have to understand at the end
Yes,
of the day.
you have to understand why. Because what we try to do is also, as they grow older, we bring them into the discussion board, or into the
Yes.
discussion boardroom, as it were. They become, as they grow older, they become board members of the family.
Members.
They need to know that their opinions matter, right? They have a say. It's not as if everything is decided on their behalf. No, they have a say. And if we don't choose your own opinion, because sometimes all of them don't have the same opinion about a matter. So sometimes it can be 2 against 1, one against 3. So I usually have the final vote. So
Last.
if it is a voting something, I have the final vote. If there's a tie, I can become the tiebreaker. But the idea, and sometimes I don't even get my own way, because my way may not be what's best for the family. So we are always looking for what's in the best interest of the family. Managing tantrums, just use boundaries, and it needs to begin very early. If it didn't begin very early, it means that, like I said before, it means that you are no longer able to legislate it. You have to get it either by conversation or by influence.
Yes. Okay.
So okay, we are not your friends. I just saw that one. We are not your friends. This is how I put it. Because yes, a lot of parents try to be their children's friends so that they are not in their children's bad books and stuff like that. I put it this way: those terms like friendship with your children, sometimes I feel like they create stereotypes that get in the way of real relationships. Do you understand?
Okay.
They create stereotypes that get in the way of real relationship. I have used that statement for my children at one point to say, hey, because the truth is that children will copy stuff from their peers, depending on maybe the most influential person within their peer group. They will copy stuff from children. One of them will come and say, this my friend did this. Anything she wants, she told her parents this, they got it for her. Told them this, they got it for her. Told them they got it for her. And I will say, well, that's their parent. What's your surname?
Yes.
Your surname is Bature.
Yes.
We are not their parents. I am who? I am your parent. And in this house, you know how the thing works.
Yes.
If there's a gift, it is for an occasion. If you want something extra, it is for performance. And the performance can be based on whatever the target is. It is not just academic. Whatever the target is, and you say, this is the target, I'm going to meet it, and if we agree with it, we sign a contract and we are fine. The reason why I say I don't want to use the stereotypes about being friends, even though we are friendly with our children, which is the truth.
Yes.
We are friendly with our children because we have built rapport. Now, rapport is necessary. It's important as the children get older.
Yes.
The reason for that is so that something happened recently that I was so upset, right, with one of my children. And I told somebody that this thing happened. I was looking for something and my daughter took it, right? And then she told me that she took it and went to school. Then she sent me a message and said, oh, I took it. I was so upset. But by the time I spoke with my wife, I was upset I gave my daughter the reasons why I was upset, right? But someone said to me, wow, you mean she took it? And she actually told you that she took it. You should be celebrating. You should be celebrating her. Meanwhile, me, I'm upset. And I told her the reasons why I was. Do you understand? But the point I'm trying to bring out is there's that rapport that makes her able to tell me, oh, I took your stuff. And she took it honestly because she didn't think I was using it because of the way I kept it. But then I was now looking for the stuff. Now, what am I trying to say? We can be friendly with our children. I've told my children before, hey, I'm not your friend, I'm your father.
Yeah.
But we can be friendly because at a certain age, it is required as part of the relationship. But
Yes.
the being friendly does not stop me from being your father. Remember,
Yes.
I spoke about sympathy and empathy at the
Empathy.
beginning.
Mm.
Yeah.
Mm.
So
Mm.
I can be friendly with you and we are just listening. But my friendliness with you does not stop me from applying what you need in order to
Yes.
be, in order to not to be a useless son or a stupid
Mm.
daughter. Do you understand? Yeah. So it's a balance. I guess that's the way I put it. It's a
Yes.
balance.
Mm.
Um, as quote and unquote as being the mean one. I told him my wife is like assistant Holy Spirit and the one that is
Mm.
supposed to be the mean one. Meanwhile,
Mm.
when we were getting married, that wasn't the contract. When we were getting married, she's supposed to be the disciplinarian because me, I love children. I just like to carry
Yes.
children. I just like to, I just like to. I even worked in children's church. Back then I
Yes.
used to be in children's church.
Yes.
That, but
You were
life
this cool. You
happens.
were this cool uncle. That's
I'm the like a cool guy, that was cool. Whenever I carry children, they'll just sleep in my hand. So I felt
just
like,
yes.
no, then nothing will ever make me spank children until I had my own. And I knew that, if we don't spank this one, the Bible was very clear. In
You
fact,
lose it.
I used to read for them one scripture, I think it was Proverbs, I can't remember where exactly. Yeah,
Yes.
and he said, see, use the rod, the child will not
Mm.
die.
Yes.
He said, use the rod. And that's how the scripture says. It says, use the rod. He will not
Mm.
die. So I will tell
Yes.
them, see, if you guys misbehave, I will use the rod. I think there was something they did very recently. I told them, see, you guys are teenagers. Remember, I hope you can remember the last time I spanked you. It's been a long time. But you have not passed the place
You
of
have not gone.
Kubuko.
No, no,
You
no,
have
no.
not passed it. Do you understand? So don't let me use it. My point is there must be the balance, right? Because
Yes. Yes.
we're still on the journey. Yeah,
Yes, there must be
I'll
that
put it that way.
balance. There must be that balance, yes, because why it is important for you to understand is there's a time for you to discipline. There's also a time for you to call them to yourself. And, there's a
Yes.
time for you to sit down and have conversations. There's a time for you to sit down and listen to them. There is a
Yeah.
time for everything. And you need to, and this is where the place of training yourself as a parent, as you started, what you started with, you
Yeah.
said,
Yeah.
we as parents or as parents who are looking forward to train children, you have to first of all be trained yourself as a person. You need
Yeah.
to train yourself as a person. Children learn a lot from observation. They learn a lot from the things they see, the things they hear, and this is why you as a person need to be a whole person. You need to be a whole person before all
And,
of that.
and let me just add this thing, just this one, because I know this is something that is not common, especially for Nigerian
Mm,
parents. We
mm,
don't like to we don't like to be seen to be going for um, counseling. I used to say something that counseling or seeing a therapist.
mm.
I used to say that one thing I've discovered is that most times Nigerians don't like to see a professional counselor until the thing has gotten really bad,
Mm,
until the thing don't gas,
mm,
you don't cast. Now
mhm.
that's when we now want to see a therapist or a professional counselor or a psychologist to
Mm.
say, please help
The
me do.
situation.
But when it is getting bad or when you notice that something is amiss, you can
Mm.
see a professional counselor. And I keep using the word professional because I'm not talking about church. There are
Yes.
certain things that the solution is philosophical, but
Mm,
we always want to apply theological solutions to them.
mm, mm.
And I
Yes.
make the analogy that people have just over labored pastors these days. That any
Yes.
problem you have a sex problem with your spouse, you are going to your
Mm.
pastor,
Going to your
and
pastor.
then he will tell you to do 3 days fasting and prayer because what you need is a sex therapist. Because if you and
Exactly.
your husband cannot, you need a sex therapist, and they are there. We have them in this country. In fact, some of our clients are coming from abroad because people
Interesting.
in this country don't want to do it.
You
But
want to.
your children, you have there's something you are noticing, and as a parent, nobody is asking you to be all knowing. A number of the things I learned, I studied, I went for courses for them because I needed to help my children. So,
Yes.
parents, you cannot have all the information. So, if you don't have it, you either go for the course or you
You seek help, the
outsource it.
professional
You
help.
seek help, professional help. Use counselors, use therapists, use psychologists. They are child counselors. They can sit down with your child in four to six sessions. They can bring the children into alignment with for anomalies that you have been trying to do for years.
For
And
years. Yeah.
just the same way it is with medicine. Sometimes a medical doctor cannot treat his family member.
Yes, so
That's why we send the children to school, because there are some
yeah,
things that they will never learn from you. It's
from
not a
you.
curse. It's not a curse. It's how life happens. And that's where that saying is true, that it takes a village to raise a child. The difference is that in these days, the village is a bit more global now.
Yes,
It
yes,
takes
yes.
it takes information from you. It takes information from your teachers. It takes information from your religious circles. It takes information from bodies of knowledge on how children ought to live in their generation, not in your
Generation,
generation.
not in your own That makes sense. That makes sense. That makes sense. This has been an interesting conversation, sir. And I know you're a very busy person. I know the kind of work. I know how stressful it was to be able to get you. And it's a miracle to have finally gotten you. I
Yeah.
normally don't record within the week, but I'm so glad that I was even able to get you at all. I'm so glad. Thank you so much for making
Yeah.
out time.
Thank
So can you
you.
tell
Thank
us, you
you.
can share with my listeners if you have any project, any upcoming project, or you have something going that people can
Yeah.
subscribe to, you can go ahead and
Yeah.
share with us.
All right. So I would send you a link to my page where I have where people can get free consultations with me.
Wow.
I
Interesting.
because I am a counselor and also a pastor, and I realize that some of the needs that people have, some of them are spiritual, but some of them are professional. So I
Yes.
offer free consultation so that I can decipher to say what you need. If it's a spiritual problem, I'm not going to give you a professional solution. I will tell you
Yes.
yes, because you are not the one that is paying me. God is my source, right? So
Yes.
if I have the consultations with you, I can tell you, oh, this is what you need to do. It's professional. This is
Mm,
what you need to
mm,
do. Oh, just this is, and then we can pray about it. We can do some spiritual activity if that is what it is. But if it is
yes.
professional, then we can now go on to say, okay, these are consultation sessions. That's number one.
Mm,
I'll share that link with you. Number two, something that I have coming up is something that is a program that I've designed for men, because I've realized that a lot of men need need coaching. Men need empowerment, but we have a world right now that seems to be more interested in empowering women. United
yes.
Nations, UNICEF,
Yes.
everyone is more interested in empowering women, but
Mm.
they forget that these women need to marry men that have
We
sense.
need to, that has true, true.
So I'm designing. So there's a program that is coming up by the first week of June that is strictly for men. The flyer should be out this week, and I will send that to you. Hopefully before weekend, I'll send that to
Okay.
you, and you can share with them. It's a 2-day virtual workshop, and then there'll be a physical session at my studios here
Okay.
in Lekki. For those that are not in Lekki, they can always join
Join online.
online, virtual.
Mm.
So that's two things. Of course, there's always common sense for relationship, and there's the concept that we also design for men called Man Cave. It's all
Mm.
on our website. Our website is www.anietie.com, right?
Okay.
Then slash common sense, you'll see all of this slash man cave, you see all of
All
our
of that.
content is there. And like I say, for people that are parents and in relationships, one of the key things about raising children, like I said, is having an atmosphere where they can grow. If the atmosphere you have with your wife is toxic, then
Mm.
you are going to have a very volatile environment in the home.
Yes.
And so my wife has two books, Husband Material and then the Workbook of Husband Material. There are two books
Mm.
that help couples um, to find the balance and are able to step by step. The workbook helps you get step by step instruction on how to create the right environment and the right template within your home. There is a book that is coming, but I won't share that now until it comes.
Until the
When we're
time
busy,
comes.
then we share. Yes, but it's coming. That also is to help men and to help men in marriages.
Marriages.
So we have a lot that's coming. We have a lot that is coming up. We have a lot that we're designing, and just keep tabs with us.
Sure.
All our information you will always find on our website,
Mm.
and our YouTube page has a lot, tons and tons of free videos. Even though we
Mm.
offer professional counseling at a fee, depending on what the issue is, but we have a lot of free material on our YouTube page, and by just following our YouTube page, you can get
Yes. Yes.
educated with common
True.
sense.
Common sense. True. Thank you so much, sir. I'll also add that he has a studio in Lagos that is
Like,
up for use. So for
yeah,
content, I want to encourage all the content creators, all the creatives
yeah.
in Lagos. It's something you want to check out. It's something
It's
that we
called
always
Broken Wall. It's called Broken Wall Media Studios.
media.
So there's a
Mm.
podcast set, there is a live stream set, there is a video recording set, there is a photo studio, and coming up very soon is a fully functional world-class rehearsal studio for
Studio.
audio and vocals. Yeah.
So, I mean, it's a lot. It's a lot going on there. So you want to just, in fact, pretty much just check them out on social media.
Yeah.
YouTube is Common Sense for Relationships. A lot of I have been blessed by by the content, and you would be blessed too. So that's pretty much going to be it on this episode. I want to say a very big thank you again to you, sir. Thank you
Thank
so much
you.
for your time. Thank you so much to you guys listening to this episode, or if you're watching on YouTube, thank you so much to all of you. Until I come your way again, enjoy. Peace.